Hey everyone, my name is Michael Seiger and I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, and this is the Domain Sherpa Discussion. This is the show where we discuss industry and internet news and of course answer questions from the audience. We're joined by four industry veterans and thought leaders. From left to right we have Adam Dicker, frozen in screen, Mike Berkens, Paige Howe, and Rick Schwartz. Gentlemen, welcome to this week's show.
Thank you.
All right, now if any of you noticed the guy's freezing up, it could be them just screwing around, or it could be my computer, which seems to be freezing some of their pictures. So anybody listening won't have that problem. All right, first up, we are going to revisit a topic. No, it's not going to be new GTLDs. It's going to be ICANN and IANA oversight. So anybody that's been under a stone for the past 2 weeks, here's what's going on. IANA functions to resolve domain names to server IP addresses, so the internet basically functions, right? We all know that it resolves. That's the way cloud backups work, and emails get set. Now, ICANN currently performs the IANA functions on behalf of the global internet community under a contract from the United States Department of Commerce. The NTIA, the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, an agency of the Department of Commerce, performs a process check before authorizing any changes to the DNS's authoritative root zone files, where things actually get put into the database to resolve. Now, it is the NTIA role that is proposed to be overseen by a multinational body that is to be created, and ICANN is I believe, working on this. So far, 3 congressional bills in the United States have been proposed. H.R. 4342, the Domain Openness Through Continued Oversight Matters.com, introduced by Representative Shimkus from Illinois. We've got H.R. 4367, the Internet Stewardship Act, by Representative Kelly from Pennsylvania. And then we've got a third one, H.R. 4398, the Global Internet Freedom Act, which, you got to love anything with freedom in it, of 2014, introduced by Representative Duffy of Wisconsin. All 3 bills prohibit the NTIA from relinquishing their responsibility over the domain name system. With the root zone file, the internet assigned names and number functions, the management. So, Mike Berkens, let me start with you. Do any of these 3 bills, and any more that will be proposed, actually have the ability to stop the transition of the oversight?
I don't see why not. I mean, the U.S. is, voluntarily giving up the oversight. Their contract isn't up until next year. I think, the Department of Commerce has acted independently without consultation, at least publicly, apparently of Congress, and they issued this mandate that they're ready to give up the oversight control, and a lot of congressmen, House members, and senators are not very happy about it. Did you mention the .com bill?
I did. I mentioned it. Yeah, .com. I love it when congressmen propose bills and they must title it such that the acronym, is a cool word like .com.
There you go.
That's your favorite of the 3?
That one is just really asking for a study to be done. So it's just requiring that the GAO do a study of what the upsides and downsides and positive consequences are of giving up oversight before oversight is given up, which seems to be like a good idea. So I think it's it's all expected. I don't think that there are going to. I don't think the United States is going to just unilaterally give this thing up without Congress having its say. And there was a hearing held last week as well, a House hearing on the subcommittee on the issue as well. So I think we got ways to go yet on this thing.
So while the Congress and House and our representatives in the United States are debating whether this should happen and talking about the pros and cons of these bills, is ICANN in parallel now looking at what that transition will be and what this new body will look like?
They're making plans, absolutely.
Have they started work on it yet?
They started working on it in Singapore. They started taking some input, and definitely working on it. I think Kevin Murphy at Domain Insight wrote a little bit about it today as well. So they are plugging along, and I would expect them to plug along. I don't think they're going to stop because there's a bill that's proposed in the U.S. Congress, or several bills. They're going to keep plugging along and make their plans for the switchover. And
All right. You know, many say that the sky is falling. They look at different scenarios of a multinational oversight of IANA functions, and you know, media has also looked at that, and they're talking about which companies like it and which companies don't like it. People say it won't be possible for other nations to control the price of domains, take down the TLDs and the like. Rick, you think that there is warranted concern over a multinational oversight. What concerns do you see?
Well, absolutely I do. And if you remember a few shows ago when we discussed this, and of course it turns everybody off the minute we say ICANN, everyone just kind of runs to the corners. But I said a couple of things at that time that are now true, okay? I said at that time that Democrats and Republicans alike would oppose this, and they have. And I also said it would come up in Congress with all kinds of bills, and it has. And if you look, Bill Clinton has weighed in on it. I mean, this is a really big issue. We have fought wars for smaller issues than this. And just like Mike said, we just haven't studied it carefully enough to know if we're doing the right thing. And if you studied something and you just do it, you're automatically making the wrong decision, because then you may as well just flip a coin of whether it's good or it's bad. And if people can't realize that there could be consequences, I mean, look, let's look at it this way. Would you put North Korea in charge of the Panama Canal today? I mean, would you do that? I mean, you know, we don't know what's in it. It's like, you know, you got to pass it into the, you know, you really have to know what this is about, because the world economy could, you just don't know. There's just too many ifs. No one knows. This is something too big to gamble with. The U.S. is a good steward. It's a stable government. It's stability that counts. It's like the U.S. dollar. You can go anywhere in the world, and they will take the U.S. dollar anywhere, any corner of the world for the last hundreds of years, because it's stable. That's why they do it. There is almost no other currency that you will see with that kind of stability. And if anything gets awry in the world, the first thing people do is they run to the U.S. dollar because it's stable. And you know, stability is the key. And without it being well thought out, it's a bad idea. And that's what I said. If you support it without the fact, you got to be an idiot. Come on. You know, if you hate the USA that much, give me a break, okay? Give me a break.
Adam, you're our resident international expert on the panel. Is the concern as great in Canada?
Surprisingly enough, I don't know how to put this without pissing off the other panelists. I don't really care that much. There's no concern here in Canada about it, and it's like the weather. Yes, we can fight it, but we may not change it.
But they got no army. It's your army in Canada. You know, if it wasn't for the United States, there wouldn't be Canada. Come on. They would have invaded us. They would have taken you over. You'd be speaking some other language right now, man. Come on.
Our army, what, like Spanish?
Like Spanish, at least.
Our army is good for, we use them here to shovel snow when it gets really bad.
It's your National Guard.
So I'm not really have an opinion on this. I think obviously it's better if it stays U.S. owned and operated, but beyond that, I don't have much opinion.
And they do speak another language up there in part of that country, don't they?
French, and actually they wanted separation. We just had an election this week, and the party that wanted separation has been in power for the last 40 years, had their worst defeat since 1970, and now they're done. There's nobody left in the party.
Well, we don't care about that down here.
Maybe that'll happen to ICANN. They'll do away with the party, and that'll be it.
I just think that ICANN has had as much trouble staying consistent with its bylaws between its ombudsman, its reconsideration board, and trying to manage its own transparent bottom-up process, that then to let the It's kind of like letting the kids replace the babysitter. You know, the babysitter wants to leave and says to the kids, well, who do you want the babysitter to be? And they say, well, how about my imaginary friend Johnny and my teddy bear? And then the babysitter says, sounds good to me. You got to pick your own bosses. And it's just this idea that the NTIA is going to say, we abdicate actually being the check and balance for this thing because, ooh, it's too hard or something like that. And it just lets the bureaucrats kind of take over and pick their own overseers. So that's why I'd like to see it go a different way.
Paige, in the end, it's cheaper for the parents if they have an invisible babysitter.
But isn't that unfair, Paige? Aren't you making an analogy that the U.S. government is an adult and the representatives in other governments from other countries are children and they can't think through the process?
What I'm saying is that when you have a representative body, okay, you have a representative body that has to take everyone into consideration. That in itself has its own weaknesses. It may come up with a policy that is only good for itself, and therefore the executive branch, like in our government, has an idea that it can have a black and white of we're just going to be there when something goes way too out of bounds to make sure that even if all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed and they did it through a GNSO vote and all this stuff, that something that just isn't right doesn't come through. So you just have but at the same point, the U.S. government isn't the black and white person who makes the decisions on everything having to do with the DNS. Says to be made, but you just have this check and balance that isn't this unaccountable, bureaucratic, huge body that really just acts for itself. You know, there's no registrants constituency in ICANN, and so that's why I feel better having kind of an executive branch, one person to say what's reasonable, check and balance on the internet. I think that's the role the Department of Commerce always has had.
So you bring up a valid point there. There's no registrants representation on ICANN's board right now?
It's if there is in their mind, there isn't one in reality, because even talking to the ICANN rep at last week's show, they're like, we really don't have any way to handle registrants' rights. We just don't. It's the insiders getting together and deciding what's best for the insiders, and that now they're going to decide who their overseer is. So.
Right, and in U.S. House or Congress, we as citizens elect people who represent our interests, and if they don't represent our interests, then we pull them out. But there's no such proceedings at ICANN. It's pretty much...
Right, it'd be like if the congressmen in the U.S. all decided to make them all governors, and they said, we agree with that. We have this veto power that where someone says, no, that's not right. So you have ICANN getting together and deciding what's best for the people in the ICANN process, and I just think that there needs to be a check and balance that isn't invented by ICANN.
Hey, Mike, would you say that's a fair comment to make, given your knowledge about ICANN?
Yeah, I think it's a fair comment to state that if the U.S. had given up oversight over the internet a few years ago, before the last VeriSign contract for .com and .net was renewed by ICANN, the ICANN would have renewed it on the presumptive renewal basis with the 7% increase included in 4 out of every 6 years. Mm-hmm. So the only reason that increase wasn't included in the presumptive renewed contract from a couple of years ago is because the Department of Commerce said no. And they were the ones who put the kibosh on the rate increase. Mm-hmm. So if they weren't around, we'd be paying 7% more forever and a day, every 4 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. So that's, I think, one of the biggest concerns, or the biggest concern for me personally with the U.S. giving up oversight, because the U.S. really haven't really stepped in and interfered with ICANN's operations very much or very often. Mm-hmm. But they're sort of like, the final say, they're sort of there as the safety net. If something that gets really crazy or really wacky, then they could step in and do something. But typically they don't. They let ICANN make a lot of decisions. The new GTLD program, .XXX, U.S. wasn't thrilled about it. They let it go through. I mean, they really didn't stop ICANN from doing anything. Mm-hmm. The only sort of influence I've seen them really have in the use of the oversight power that they have is by going in and stepping in and stopping that rate increase on the .com, .net contract. So That's the biggest issue, is what happens in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
If the U.S. gives up control in 2015, when that contract comes up for renewal, who does it go to, on what basis, under what terms?
So
And
you could say that the U.S. oversight is beneficial because they are representing the registrants' rights. You know, looking at the costs. Is it just crazy high? Are those costs justifiable? And the U.S. government said no, it's not in this case.
Right.
So we're not going to allow that. And if ICANN was controlled by a multinational body whose interests were governed by ICANN, primarily registries, they might want that increase because it pads everybody's pockets, increases profits.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that definitely that increase would have taken place. So that's my concern for U.S. giving up this oversight control over ICANN, is that I think registrants' rights, which registrants do have a seat at the table. I mean, they have a small seat because registrants don't come out in mass to represent themselves, and of course we have the ICA and Phil, who's there to represent us, but there's not too many other people like Phil Corwin.
Phil Corwin at the Internet Commerce Association. Go watch Phil's interview on DomainSherpa to learn more about it. He represents our rights as domain investors.
Right.
Yep.
Pretty much the only organization that does.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping that this does not go through.
Yeah. All right. Any final comments on this ICANN, IANA, transition bills? All right. Sound off in the comments. Tell me if you think this is an interesting topic, because I find it personally interesting, and we're going to continue to discuss it as these bills go through Congress, as they're discussed, as more data comes out. And if you guys don't like it, you tell us. But if you do like it, let us know also. All right. Second topic. I received a physical letter from a reader. Unbelievable, right?
That's right. And it got your attention, didn't it?
Well, I'm going through my mail, and I open up all the spam, because you can't. It could have a bill. Who knows what's going to be in the envelope. So I open it up. It's on letterhead. It's addressed to me at DomainSherpa. It says, "Hi, Michael. This is what we used to call a letter, made from what we used to call paper." So I credit Craig Marshall. He's a countryman of yours, Adam. He's up there in Canada. So he's got a question for DomainSherpa. Instead of sending it in, he sent it in on via email. He sent it on a letter.
Paige, I must know him.
You probably know him, Craig Marshall. Of course you know him.
No, I have no idea.
All right. Paige, pay attention.
No,
this is for you, and I'm surprised. And, of course, the rest of the panel, I want to chime in as well. Paige, I'm surprised you don't have your ilove.la in the background there.
Are you surprised Paige got a letter?
Hey, Paige, are you still there? He's frozen.
I'm here.
All right, he's there. All right. I wanted to ask a question of the panel and Paige regarding pricing of .la domains. Frank over at DNS, Domain Name Sales, Frank Schilling at Domain Name Sales, accepted his urology.la and urologist.la as listings in his account. No inquiries yet, but he's thinking with the success of .berlin and the forthcoming launch of .nyc that he may soon have a price quote. He has a ton of LA names, probably more than you, Paige. I actually have a list here, which I'm not going to go through. And the only thing he can think of to come up with when these leads come in that he needs to quote a price for is to check the Astabot value of .com and apply a percentage. This might not work in that if the end user was truly local, the .la could be a better choice than the .com. So I open this up to the panel. Let's start with Paige. He appreciates any comment that you might have, Paige, and for the whole panel, love the show. You folks are a credit to the domain world at large. So, Paige, what do you think about pricing .la domains?
Yeah, I don't think on any of the shared TLDs or the new TLDs or the CCTLDs you can do what Estabot does, which is just apply a percentage. If the com's worth this, this TLD is worth 2%, because it's a huge difference if it's a completely word that doesn't have any geolocality to it versus a word that may be even better. So saying that nets are worth 3%, all orgs are worth 4%, you really just can't apply it, because it really does make a difference what the word is and whether it goes with what's to the right of the dot. And so there can be a word like we looked at one today, onlineeducation.la, and you're like, oh my gosh, online education is a huge thing online. but then do you really need it local if you're doing it online? At the same point, if you had carpetcleaning.la, that's one where it's very hard to get that service online, but it's very easy. That would be one that would be local. So I just think you can't use one fixed number to haircut from the .com to price a CCTLD or a shared TLD.
All right, so let me ask you then, if it is something that needs to be done local, and he sent me a list, so I'm assuming, Craig, it's okay if I mention a couple of your domains. ChineseFood.la, HomeInspection.la, Renovations.la. Those are LA people, Los Angeles people, who want to find Los Angeles-based contractors or service providers. In those cases, is it fair to say it's a function of a percentage of the .com value?
No, I think, HomeInspection.la, the average home inspection is $1,000. So how many times $1,000, do you want to charge someone in LA to have HomeInspection.la? Right now, we don't know what LA domain names are worth. They're probably not worth whatever we're quoting. They're either worth less because they're never going to work, or they're worth a bunch more because they are going to work. So it's just an optionality. It's an option price to be able to sit there while we wait to see if it's going to work. But I think you just have to look at the name, and you have to look at the average price of engagement and a bunch of other stuff, and then come up with your price. And really, it's just what would the domainer sell it for? I think the most important thing in the valuation of a domain name, and Rick will agree with me on this, is what the seller wants for it. It doesn't matter if it has 6 letters or 8 letters or 9 letters or 12 letters. A great name that a seller is willing to sell is going to come up with a much lower valuation than a so-so name that a seller will never leave for. So anyway, I just think that you have to say, what would someone put in this hand that would make me give them the name? And that's it.
Any other thoughts?
I've talked about it before, but I don't think it's a fair comparison to look at LA, against the .Berlin or .NYC or .London. People need to keep in mind that those new GTLDs they're actually backed by the city governments. Not every new GTLD geo domain has a lot of city involvement, but some that do, like Berlin, like London, like .NYC, like New York, who are actively backing the extension, are going to be using it in city government, who are going to be advertising it, marketing it, and talking about it, and embracing it. So .LA, of course, has nothing to do with Los Angeles. It's Laos. It's a country code for Laos. I do get it. I do see it could become a brandable thing, but it's a completely different animal than the geo new GTLDs. So, and I agree with Paige. All these, a lot of new GTLD operators, everybody's sort of taking Estabot and then, doing a percentage of Estabot. A lot of them are doing much higher than 2%. Some are going like 10%, although .nets and .orgs typically are selling, have sold for 5 or 10% of .coms. A brand new TLD is saying, well, we think we're worth 10% of a .com. So I think that's faulty logic as well. It just doesn't work that way, and that's my thoughts on it.
All right. So if he sees...
I didn't know it was Laos until just now, just to be honest with you. I had no clue. Honest. And you know what? I understand Mike's distinction about the cities getting behind it, but aside from that, just as a neophyte, you come into it and it's just, okay, .LA. So from a standpoint of just the extension and not knowing the intricate part that most end users don't know about, the domains that you listed were pretty good domain names if that were to take off and it became something. And that can actually be propelled by the .Berlin and the .New York City and all those if they take off. But even if they take off, doesn't mean they're going to work. It's kind of like it's a plane. Well, it may take off, but if it crashes, does it really take off? And as far as figuring out a percentage, I don't really look at it like that, but I guess you got to start somewhere. But I look at it as an individual domain name, and what is the value to that end user? Okay, that's what I look at, and that's why my numbers are completely different than most, because I would say, okay, HomeInspections.la, and the guy makes $1,000 a pop if he gets a sale. Well, you know what? pay me your first 5 sales, and you're going to get the rest of the sales for eternity. So that automatically makes it worth $5,000. So to me, that's the minimum base, and it could be a lot more. It just depends. Maybe, go for a little percentage of it, 5%. Hey, give it to them for $500 and give me 5% of every sale you ever make. I mean, there are ways to do it. It's what the value is to the guy that you're talking to. How much can he make from it? That, to me, is what the value is, and whatever everything else, it takes a back seat.
Yep. Adam, any final thoughts on .la domains?
No, except Rick did say that if a plane crashes, it actually take off. We're still waiting on Malaysia Airlines flight to figure that out, but it actually did take off. So
it did take off, yeah.
No, listen, I don't believe the LA domains have a lot of hope with what they're against. I believe they'll take off in Los Angeles. And I think, is it Laos or Laos is the city, is the country? Michael?
That one.
Okay, because if it's Laos, well, that's the singular for lice, which makes it even worse.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway,
I don't think
it's going to be too great, but for Paige's sake, I hope it is.
All right, moving right along. If you haven't been to dnforum.com recently, you're going to notice quite a few changes. The site was updated, I think, Monday or Tuesday, Adam? Let's see. Monday you announced
Monday
it. I think it started on Monday afternoon, right?
Yeah, it started months ago, but it really went public Monday around dinner time, East Coast.
Yep. And so what can users expect to see on DN Forum if they've been there in the past?
So I prepared since David Letterman is retiring in 2015, I decided to prepare a top 10 list. So number 10, show staff online on the homepage to help you out or ignore all your requests. Number 9, and this could be one of the most important ones, now has targeted traffic conference banner up on front page for May's show.
Nice.
And I'm a big conference fan, especially of traffic. The love I have for Rick and Howard and Alina and Barbara Side, it's an excellent networking opportunity, and those of you that don't go are very foolish. Because I've been to lots of conferences this year, and traffic to me is the best one as far as networking and people.
And I'll be there at traffic as well.
9.
I just spoke to Howard this morning. It sounded like a great conference.
Well, and Rick has not paid anything for that number 9 spot, or he would have been higher up. Anyway, he didn't know about it. Number 8, a much better mobile scan and view, which since 80% of the world uses mobile phones instead of computers, it's very beneficial.
Nice.
And number 7, sticks with mobile. You can get push alerts now to your phone on certain threads you want to be updated on. Number 6, add a URL in the post, and instead of showing URL, it shows the actual page title, and it's clickable. So instead of just showing DomainSherpa.com, it'll show your page title.
Cool.
Number 5, integration of a great coupon system and shopping cart. And that's today's code for 50% off is Sherpa50 off.
Sherpa 50 off. Nice. So what can people buy on there to take advantage of the Sherpa 50 off?
Right now, just memberships, but eventually, as you see, as we get higher in the list, you'll find other things. So hold your horses.
Nice.
We built a custom newsletter interface, so we get to interface with our 380,000 members much easier. Number 4, much more social networking capabilities. So you can do a lot more bookmarking, and now you can log in with Facebook, Twitter, or Google, which is a big thing. Number 3, it's much cleaner, much faster interface for the community, and they love the speed. And we're putting in more speed upgrades tomorrow. Number 2, a store where our members can actually sell products or software of their own and make dollars from our user base of 380,000 people. So if you have a piece of software, an ebook, or something you want to sell, you can put it in our store and you can actually make good money from the base.
I know somebody with a good DN tax guide. Maybe we should list it there too.
Well, there's a free plug for him then. He's a great guy. Number 1, the ability to get notified, and this is a big one. That's why it's number 1. The ability to get notified about threads by keyword. So if you're only interested in keywords, threads, or domains for sale, like SEO in it, Denver, lottery, or landscape, or CA domains, or whatever you want, or .la domains for page, you'll get noticed every time a .la domain goes up for sale.
That is a cool feature. Or if I just want to follow my last name, so anybody that mentioned it, or my name is Paige Howe, I can put in Paige Howe,
definitely,
and I can follow whenever he's mentioned.
The domain industry, you should definitely keyword your domain name, but not everybody should. Just you, because you've got great personality in this industry now. That's it. I mean, there's a lot of other features, and there's a lot of other cool stuff that we're adding over the next day or so, but it's much better than it was before. And only 2 to 3 people have really been involved in this migration, and it's 14 years of data into like a big migration. And I've actually learned all the back-end stuff, whereas I didn't really know it before with vBulletin because I wasn't that interested. But now I've done half of the installations myself, so I'm really familiar with it, and there's nothing I can't do. So I'm looking forward to continuing on that.
Nice. Well, congrats. And if people get in there, they can look at the new post threads and see the bugs thread. So if they notice anything peculiar, post a comment there, and Adam and his staff will take a look at it. And
they will, because we're still working on it.
Yep. Thanks for the Sherpa 50 off for signing up for memberships, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, next topic. Rick's got his hallofshame.com, which is a useful website to identify. Well, you tell us, Rick. What are you identifying on hallofshame.com?
Well, we try to keep up with the current reverse domain name hijackers and keep a list of not only the company but also the law firms that represented the company that should know better than to do that to begin with. So I update it maybe once every few weeks and try to keep it as current as I can. And if they want a complete list of every domain hijacking, rdnh.com has a really comprehensive list in Excel spreadsheet form of every single decision.
Hey, whose dog is that? Whose
Not
dog?
mine.
It sounds like Romeo and Juliet to me.
There we go. Thanks, Mike. All right, so we've got hallofshame.com. It's a way for the domain industry to police itself. So if one of the dispute resolution organizations determines that somebody has been reverse domain name hijacking, you highlight it on there, Rick. You also do that with your domain names. And as I pointed out on QLP.com, interviewing John Berryhill a couple of weeks ago, last Monday, if you go visit QLP.com, I think they've got a summary of their UDRP case where the complainant lost and was trying to take a domain name that didn't appear in my review of it, and John Berryhill's review of it shouldn't have been. So my next topic has to do with policing the domain name industry also. According to numerous complaints on dnforum.com, domain name broker Toby Clements is selling domain names on behalf of investors, collecting the funds and not paying the owners. As of right now, I personally have no proof of these accusations from anyone. I called Toby to ask for a comment, but was only able to leave a message. I bring it up only because maybe one of you has dealt with Toby and you want to talk about actual data that we'll share with the community. If not, we can just move on to a different topic. Any comments?
Well, I mean, the only thing that I know is that Toby worked for Rick Latona, and there was a conference that Rick Latona did, and I was privy to information about domains that were sold, and he was offering 10 or 20% on the dollar to people whose money he collected and never paid. So,
and that's Rick Latona that did that.
Right, but Toby was working for him at the time, and usually staff have a pretty good idea of what's going on. So all I know is that happened for sure with Latona. I don't know what happened for sure with Toby, and I haven't been involved in any of those transactions. But it certainly doesn't look good that he's disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
So I ran into a situation where I got paid what I thought was maybe late, and my frustration was I realized when I sent him a name to put in the newsletter, I really didn't agree to any terms and conditions when I did it. So, I just sent him a name, and but there's no doubt that people who paid for names should get them, and people who have sold names should get the money. What I've wanted to see happen maybe in the last 10 years has been some type of basic 10 things that every domain broker should agree to do. That if we had like an accreditation thing that said I won't sell a name that I don't have under contract, I will, have all offers, and just some basics and some best practices that I think we could actually come together and come up with and say, okay, I'm a certified domain name broker, or I'm approved by the so and so, and I think so. This is separate from Toby's issue. This is just a way to kind of be able to say that there is a role for a domain name broker, and there's things you should do and shouldn't do. And I thought this just made me think of that again.
Why don't you, if you're going to use a domain name broker, why doesn't the industry just get together and say you must have a legal entity and you must register with the Better Business Bureau so that people can file complaints if they're having an issue? Does that not serve the same purpose?
They're going to close up and start a new company, so it's not really going to be a benefit. This reminds people that the domain industry is still the Wild West, and stories like this are not good for the industry in general.
As an industry, we need to be indignant sometimes on what goes on. Everyone's covering, and everyone looks the other way, and, well, if it didn't happen to me, where's a sense of indignancy when people do things wrong? And I guess that brings me back to the Hall of Shame for a second. HallOfShame.com. The number one reason the Hall of Shame is up there is as a deterrent to all the people that are in the process or thinking about reverse hijacking a domain name. Okay? That's what it's really there for, because let them know if they overstep their bounds, they're going to be listed there. It's written in ink. It can't come off. It's there forever. And I guarantee you, when we start looking at the amount of cases after this year and next year, even with all the more domains that are coming out and the more suits, you're going to see reverse domain name hijacking decisions actually, I think, go down, because they're on notice now. They're starting to figure it out, and they know they're going to be used as poster boys, and it's going to hurt their business forever. It hurts their business, their credibility. We only have one reputation. And yeah, they have all the reputation guys that'll fix because you're no good, and they'll try to erase all the crap about you, but at the end of the game, you're still no good.
Mm-hmm. And please visit reputationrepair.com for any of these issues.
Is there a Sherpa 50 off coupon code there too?
Yeah, those guys
Give me a coupon code.
They can pay through the nose. 50 plus code maybe.
I mean, it's not really any different than really any other, industry or profession even. I mean, every year there's, hundreds of lawyers, around the United States that, get accused of stealing trust fund money, for example. And, there's obviously Wall Street is notorious for having, scammers and people that basically take your money and don't invest in stocks that you pay them to invest in. So, I mean, it's fairly unusual in the domain space. I think far between stories of people actually doing this. I'm not going to speak to this situation because I don't know one way or the other, but again, it doesn't really look so good. But there's nothing, no matter how how regulated you are. Again, like lawyers, for example, that are heavily regulated, and licensed and regulated by state organizations. They're still lawyers that take people's money out of the trust funds. So. Yeah. It's going to happen to some extent, and I think it hasn't happened very much in this.
Not grandma's money. Oh my.
Yeah.
All right. I want to point out that everything that I read online is hearsay until it's proven, or in a court of law. We're not a judge. We're not a jury. But you bring up a good point, Paige, that there should be some sort of Better Business Bureau.
I think it's coming, Michael. I have a good feeling it's coming.
Oh yeah. All right.
The Domain Certification Group.
Domain Certification Group?
For brokers, for investors, for brokers, for investors, and for websites as well to certify that they're actually legitimate.
Huh.
I have a good feeling about it.
I can get you DCG.com.
Geez, I was wondering how that would work.
That name's available, I think, Domain Certification. For now.
All right, we're gonna move from and if Toby listens to this or watches it and wants to have a discussion, come on. I welcome to do that and set the story straight. All right, we're gonna move from one not so happy topic into another. On Monday, April 7th, just this past Monday, news broke on the Heartbleed bug vulnerability in the OpenSSL cryptographic library and the risk to users' accounts. What does this mean? That means that if you go to any website that has HTTPS, or in Chrome, Google Chrome nowadays, you don't even see the HTTP or HTTPS, but you see that little green padlock or yellow padlock in the browser bar, like if you go into your bank or you go to Amazon.com or any of those sites. The HTTPS, the secure socket layer that encrypts the data that gets sent from your computer to the server and back again. All that's supposed to be encrypted. There's a bug that affects roughly 2/3 of all websites on the internet. And it exposes a user's login and password to hackers that gain access to this. It is not good. It affects my websites over, on various sites that I have where I use SSL. Adam mentioned that it affects his. I got at least 4 emails from different websites today saying it affected theirs. All servers are being repaired. What to do? If you get those emails, change your passwords. Like if you sign on to, Yahoo was the one that actually was proven. So if you have a Yahoo account and you have a password associated with that Yahoo account, and then you go to your bank and you use the same email address and password, go change your password. Come up with a new password at all your different locations. And I find it a pain to try and manage it. But if you go get 1Password or there's another one, it's an actual extension, LastPass. It's a extension for your browser, so you never have to remember passwords again, and it stores them all. You can assign a new password for each site really easily. You can just click a button and it populates the information. I think we really need to move in that direction. Adam, what were you saying?
Also, RoboForm is very good. RoboForm, F-O-R-M. I've been using it for about 10 years.
Cool.
But both those programs will generate passwords for you, so you don't have to even think of them.
And they're secure. They have the uppercase, the lowercase letter, number, a special character.
And special characters too. There's lots they can do.
Yeah. Did you guys get any of those emails today from various sites?
Nope.
No.
Seriously? Wow.
Domain tools.
Domain tools. Yeah, I got theirs today as well. Yep. So Domain Tools patched their bug vulnerability, and they told you to go change your password at any sites where you use the same email address and password. All right. And if you run any stores where you're selling products or things like that, make sure you update your SSL certificates and you get your servers patched, and then pray. All right. Last story of the day. We are going to have an upbeat story. I would like to congratulate Mike and Judy Berkens on their pending anniversary. Woo! Oh,
Thank you.
And
What's
Paige fell
pending
off.
about it? What's pending about it?
What's next week? Next week.
What is it,
Next
Mike? How many
week.
years?
27.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome, Mike. 27 years. So can you
It's amazing
leave?
because I'm only 37. I'm
I know,
actually
exactly.
sitting on a
Judy
workout for me.
stole you young. Is there any words of wisdom? What is the secret to a happy marriage that you can last 27 years?
2 words.
I mean, I think it's it's choosing wisely. It's choosing wisely from the beginning, and I think it's growing together, communicating, having we work together a lot and work together a lot. I mean, much more than most of the married couples, which I think is good, actually. So I think a lot of couples, a lot of directions and have different work and different projects and different groups of friends, and at some point you don't wind up spending really much of any time together. So I think people need to spend a little bit more time together as married couples to have a long relationship.
Tell him your secret. He has a secret 2 words. It's called Yes, Judy. Yes, Judy.
Wow.
Come on.
That wasn't the 2-word secret I was thinking about, but it's a family show, so.
A lot of people understand that it's more deciding what's worth fighting over and what's worth giving in on, and there's not a lot that's really worth fighting over.
Hey, wait a second. How many years have you been married, Adam?
This June it'll be 20.
Wow. All right.
Wow.
Big 2-0. I guess you get to chime in as well then.
Yeah, good.
Not as good as Mr. Berkens and Judy though, so let them take the cake.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here's your anniversary hat. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, congratulations, Mike
Thank
and
you.
Judy. Looking forward to seeing you at Traffic at the end of May. Audience, please go post your questions. Anything you'd like answered next week. If you want to mail in a letter, I do accept snail mail, and I actually read everything, but I read all the emails as well. You can go to DomainSherpa.com/contact. Mike?
We do have one breaking thing if people want to chat real quick about it.
Breaking?
VeriSign just posted its the domain name industry report for the fourth quarter of 2013. So there's 271 million domain names registered in the world now.
It's a lot of clutter.
How many of those are .com?
.com was up 5% in 2013. So I think 127 million common net.
That's good.
And but again, the CCTLDs are growing faster, and of course that was all before the new GTLD is launched, which of course is in 2014, and it looks like there's about 450,000 of those compared to the massive other amount.
Nice.
Hey guys, I don't play much in the traffic space, but I gotta believe that with the decline of pay-per-click revenue, I think those numbers may match real growth of real internet, real websites, given that there's had to have been a decline in the past 4 or 5 years of just you can register any URL and make it back with pay-per-click and this, that, and the other. And I think those trends could be working against each other in a way that real live, real person websites in com may have been growing more than we think, and we just don't see it because of the offset of the long tail keyword type traffic stuff.
That's a good point. They used to report that, VeriSign. They used to report the number of parked domains or one-page sites, but they stopped that a few years ago, so we don't know that.
I wonder
anymore.
why.
I don't know.
I'll ask.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Anything else, gentlemen?
Nope.
All right. Thanks for another Domain Sherpa discussion. Adam Dicker, Mike Berkens, Paige Howe, and Rick Schwartz. Thanks for coming back on the Domain Sherpa discussion, sharing your insights and expertise. And thanks again. As Craig Marshall said, you folks are a credit to the domain world at large.
Wow, what a good guy.
We'll see y'all next time.